Shelling is reported from several places in eastern Ukraine despite the official ceasefire between government forces and pro-Russia rebels. Artillery fire could be heard in the region's biggest city, Donetsk, where the truce had been observed so far. Ukrainian military sources also accused rebels of shelling positions near the port city of Mariupol. The fighting comes as Russia, Ukraine, France, and Germany held further talks over the phone. Most of the renewed fighting in Donetsk appears to be in the north of the city towards the airport. The BBC's Ian Pannell, who is in the city, says it sounded like shells were being fired in both directions, although that could not be verified. The BBC's Ian Pannell reports from the outskirts of Donetsk, "We have been hearing the sound of shells going in and coming out." Further south, a spokesman for the Ukrainian government forces said rebel units had attacked the village of Shirokine, killing one soldier, with shells also fired towards Mariupol. The government-held port city of Mariupol is in a highly strategic position, sitting between rebel-held eastern areas and Crimea, which Russia annexed nearly a year ago. The Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, which is charged with monitoring the ceasefire, also reported more shelling near the embattled town of Debaltsev, which observers have not been able to reach. The town, a railway hub that links the two rebel-held cities of Luhansk and Donetsk, fell to the rebels on Wednesday. Semen Semenchenko, a member of the Ukrainian parliament who leads the volunteer Donbass battalion, told the BBC he blamed the fall of Debaltsev on the Ukrainian Army Command and called for it to be overhauled. "I can assure you that we lost Debaltsev not because of the Russian military advantage, but because our generals refused to take responsibility," he said. He also reiterated calls for the West to send arms to Ukraine. "I believe if we don't stop the Russian military machine now, the West would have to interfere later, but it would be more serious," he said. The continued fighting prompted talks over the phone on Thursday between the leaders of Russia, Ukraine, France, and Germany, who negotiated the ceasefire deal in Minsk last week. The French presidency said afterwards the leaders had called for the implementation of the full package of measures agreed in Minsk, including a full ceasefire, withdrawal of heavy weapons and the release of prisoners. A statement issued by the Kremlin stressed the need to ensure a ceasefire and said all sides were ready to support the work of the OSCE mission in Ukraine. After government forces withdrew from Debaltsev on Wednesday, Ukraine's President Petro Poroshenko called for an unmandated peacekeeping force to enforce the ceasefire. But Russia's UN ambassador Vitaly Churkin denounced the call as a destructive move. "It raises suspicions that he wants to destroy the Minsk Accords," Mr. Churkin said. Mr. Poroshenko had suggested a police mission by the European Union would be the best format for an unmandated peacekeeping operation. But speaking on Thursday after talks with EU Commissioner Johannes Hahn, Mr. Poroshenko said Russia could not be part of any peacekeeping mission. "We view the future mission of the European Union in the framework of the joint security and defense policy as the best option for a peacekeeping operation. At the same time, I would like to underscore that Russia, as aggressor, cannot and will not take part in this peacekeeping operation," he said. Mr. Poroshenko had described the withdrawal from Debaltsev as organized but admitted at least 6 soldiers had been killed and more than 100 wounded. At least 80 are reported missing. Rebel spokesman Eduard Basurin said the town was now completely under the control of the separatists, with just scattered pockets of resistance that were being neutralized. He claimed that more than 300 government soldiers had been taken prisoner. Ukraine's government has admitted some troops were being held.